In Chapter 8, we're going to continue our look at energy conversions in living systems by looking at the process of photosynthesis. Now, you might recall that photosynthesis, we can think of this as the process that feeds the biosphere, because we know that all forms of life are going to require energy, yet all forms of life are not able to use energy directly from the sun, for instance. So living things have to be able to convert energy into some usable biological form, like a glucose molecule that they'll catabolize and break down and use to make ATPs. Now, recall that the autotrophs are the organisms in our environments that have the ability to sustain themselves without eating other molecules derived from other organisms. These autotrophs are photosynthetic, and they are able to produce their own organic energy fuels from carbon dioxide and other inorganic raw materials. For this reason, these autotrophs are known as producers in our biosphere and in our ecosystems. Organisms like ourselves are called heterotrophs. And remember, these fill the consumer roles in our ecosystems. Heterotrophs are not able to make their own organic energy molecules for food. So therefore, a heterotroph has to ingest portions of other organisms to have these energy molecules that they can break down and create ATPs from. Now, most of the autotrophic producers that we are familiar with are photoautotrophs, meaning that they are going to utilize light to self-feed. The word photoautotroph refers to light self-feeder, right? And so these organisms use light as the energy source for the synthesis of these organic compounds. And they include the very familiar plants that we share our world with, but in addition, unicellular eukaryotic algae or even large multicellular algae such as these kelps, and then a couple of different categories of photosynthetic bacteria. The cyanobacteria and these purple sulfur bacteria are all photoautotrophs. Now, for the basis of our discussions in this chapter, we're going to be looking at how photosynthesis occurs in plants. And even though the other photoautotrophs accomplish photosynthesis using a very, very similar pathway, it's a little bit different. So we're going to focus on plants. And it's the green parts of plants that have the organelles called chloroplasts. And you remember these chloroplasts are the organelles charged with the site of photosynthesis. Now, in plants, these green parts occur in small stems, unripened fruit, but it is the leaf that is our major photosynthetic organ in plants. And the leaf is a prime example of how form equals function. And so remember that the function of the leaf, therefore the function of being able to accomplish photosynthesis, is to take 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water and use some light energy to rearrange the carbons into this 6-carbon sugar, and as a byproduct produce 6 molecules of oxygen. Now, to accomplish this, plants have leaves as the major photosynthetic organ. And if we look at the leaf's anatomy, we see that the leaf is divided into a blade, and the blade of the leaf is this broad, flat portion. The petiole of the leaf attaches the blade to the stem, and then supporting the leaf are these veins. And as we'll see in just a moment, these veins contain vascular tissues, tissues that are capable of transporting water and dissolved sugars in and out of the leaf. All right, so now let's take a look at this leaf on a little bit smaller scale. And if we look, the outer surface of the leaf is called the epidermis. And if you look at the upper and lower epidermis in this diagram, you see that the epidermis is clear. This is, of course, to allow light transmission to pass through. The epidermis of the leaf is covered with a waxy cuticle, and this waxy cuticle helps to waterproof the leaf so that we don't have unwanted water loss. In the center of the leaf are the veins, and again we call these vascular bundles, and the vascular bundles are going to contain the xylem tissue that moves water and the phloem tissue that's going to move sugars. The center of the leaf is called the mesophyll, literally meso meaning middle and phyll referring to leaf. So the center of the leaf is called the mesophyll. And this is where the photosynthetic cells are that you will see the green chloroplast organelles in. It's the mesophyll and these chloroplasts that give the leaf its green color, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Now, on the surface of the leaf, in the epidermis, there are small openings called stomata, or a single stoma. And the opening and closing of the stoma are accomplished by these guard cells. And you might recall looking at this in lab a few weeks back. We looked at how the guard cells surround either side of the stoma, and the guard cells control the opening and closing of the stoma. Now, the function of the stoma is to facilitate gas exchange. And if you remember our function of the leaf, we need to have carbon dioxide coming in, and we need to allow oxygen to get out. And in addition to losing oxygen through the stoma, the plants are also going to undergo transpiration, where they will lose water vapor through the stoma. The photosynthetic organelle inside of these mesophyll cells is, of course, the chloroplast. And so if we take a look at one of these chloroplasts in a larger magnified view, we are reminded that the chloroplast consists of individual stacks of discs, membranous discs called thylakoids, and the thylakoids help to form the grana of the chloroplast. Surrounding the grana is a fluid-filled enzymatic area called the stroma. So the area that surrounds the grana here is the stroma. Now, don't get stroma and stoma confused. Now, these leaves are typically thin to allow for light transmission. Remember that we're going to be using light energy to power photosynthesis, so the light has to be able to pass all the way through the leaf for this to occur effectively.